Hey, everybody. Welcome back again for another week of AEZ, All Elite Zone Wrestling, here on YouTube every Tuesday night. Or episode 51. I'm your host, Matty G, back again. And we have Adam Gleski, the bearded wolf bruv. How you doing, sir? We missed you last week. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, we went to go see Deadpool Wolverine. It was awesome. I'm happy to be back. Very excited to talk about wrestling.
Awesome. I did go see Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine, on opening weekend, and I loved it. I thought it was the best of the three, and for me, I put it right up there as one of my favorite Marvel movies so far. I don't know what you thought. Like the cameos and the extra, I thought it was awesome. I loved it.
We won't spoil too much for everybody, but yes.
No, say, but I loved. I thought the story was great. The surprises were great. Funny. So usually by the third one of any series, starts losing a bit of its luster. But I thought they did a great job of cleaning this one up, and I thought to me is the best of the three. But no, I'm glad you had some time with the fiance. I think it was that you went out, had a little date night. Perfect. Hey, we all need that. So good on you, sir. But yeah, we're just off of. I know we always talk AEW, but as wrestling fans, I think we all have to acknowledge some of the big events in the world of professional wrestling, and we're just off the heels of SummerSlam out of the Cleveland Brown Arena in Cleveland, Ohio, this past weekend, and just thought we can just touch on that for a few minutes and just get your thoughts overall on the show. I managed to watch the majority of it last night, and I thought, it was pretty entertaining. I thought it was a good show. There was plenty of titles changed hands. I liked how there wasn't so many commercials and little stories and advertisements in between each match like they had been doing on the few other pay-per-views, and actually threw in, I think, an extra couple of matches, which is good. But any surprises that you saw at SummerSlam that you were surprised with, or did you pretty much predict everything that was going down?
I mean, I basically had my picks and predictions pretty much from the get-go for majority of those matches. I know I had one where I thought maybe it would go another way because it makes more sense to me, and that's the World Heavyweight title match. But all in all, I think I pretty much stayed on par of my predictions on the show, and really weren't surprised. I mean, reports coming out saying Roman Reigns was coming back, and sure enough, he showed up. So, no surprise for me. Like everything I made a prediction on came true.
Yeah, you know what? I thought overall, I was a little surprised. That Damian Priest lost the title already, but I know they've got big plans for Gunther, Gunther. So which he's been great. I mean, they're really big on him, and he delivers. And when he dropped his Intercontinental belts, that he was going to be up, moving on up to bigger and better things. And I know Damian Priest had kind of stumbled on a couple of botches and a couple of pay-per-views. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. It was just purely storyline. So it'd be interesting to see who they line up against Gunther for that. Great to see Roman Reigns back, and it's amazing how everyone would booed him and hated him, and as soon as he was gone, everyone was just chanting for him. So I thought it was great, and I love how they're going to be setting it up, I guess, for a potential bloodline versus bloodline. So that'd be kind of cool to see what they do with that. If they reconnect, the Usos with Roman, that'd be kind of interesting. So I think there's a lot they could do now with that. What else? What else? Who do we see? What other titles did we see change? Oh, we saw Braun Breaker. I don't know if that was much of a surprise. I mean, they're really big on Braun, and they really are really pushing him. I mean, he's got some explosive talent. So, he did lose to Sammy. So I guess it wasn't really a surprise that Sammy lost to Braun. And I kind of felt this felt like a bit of a changing of the guard a little bit. And Nia Jax, winning the title as well. I think was it the Raw? Did she win the Raw Women's title?
It was just the Women's Championship, because you had the World Women's Championship with Liv and Rhea, and then you had the Women's Championship between Bayley and Nia. So,
right.
Yeah.
Were you a little surprised that Bayley lost it already?
No, I think there's more of a story there between Nia and Tiffany Stratton with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I mean, you guys know Jason on Thursday night. That
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a big Tiffy Time fan. So no, I think there's more to it. I think they're high on Tiffany Stratton. I think they're going to push her to the moon eventually, and that cash in, there's going to just be a huge pop to it. And so I wasn't surprised at all that they gave the title to Nia. Nia, even though people give her flack, she has improved a little bit. I'm still not a fan, but I can understand the love for it, of the improvement. And then to touch upon what you said with Braun Breaker, I think that's great. I think uh, when we saw his performance at the Royal Rumble, I think that's when we knew, like, okay, this is happening, because Braun actually filled in the role that Brock Lesnar was supposed to have in that Rumble,
Mm-hmm.
and he took that over, and he actually did so well. He got very over. I mean, he eliminated almost from the Royal Rumble. So they are very high on Braun Breaker. So I'm very excited to see what he does with that Intercontinental title.
Yeah, you know what? There's one move I'm actually surprised that the spear. How many guys actually use it as a potential finisher over the years, especially? Like it's one of those. That seems to be one of those moves that's not does not belong to anybody. I mean, over the years, you see Edge, make it famous. You've seen Rhino make it famous. You've seen Roman Reigns make it famous. Braun Breaker now, like it's just one of those moves that doesn't seem to be overkilled or like no you can't use that. It seems to be one of those moves that everyone can use, and it's whoever does it best gets to use it. So I thought it was a good show overall. So yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that was another big event there, and it looked like a good turnout. And we're on the road to All In, another big show that's going to be happening, I believe, in like 8 or 9 days. I think it now is that they're pumping, and looks like the ticket sales seem to be pretty good, moving along quite well, and that's like really building. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to watch that pay-per-view, and wanted to touch on, I guess, so we kind of start with the Swerve and Brian Danielson, which will be for the heavyweight title. And now, as of last week, they've actually added an extra twist, right? So where Danielson said, "Hey, my contract is like officially over now." And he promised his family that was going to be the last contract that he would sign as a full-time wrestler. But him saying that, he put his career on the line and said, "Swerve, if I don't win your title, I will never wrestle again." So, which is kind of interesting because that just kind of blows out any chance for him to even being a part-time wrestler. So, what do we think of this? Are we going to see Danielson? I mean, it's one thing to say, "Hey, I'll put my full-time career on the line and then come back for guest shots or once in a while appearances, things like that." But the fact that he's saying his absolute career and he'll never wrestle again, where do you see this going? Do you actually see Swerve winning and Danielson really not wrestling ever again? What do you think?
So I don't know, because I mean, you know how Tony is. He likes to honor those that really help him with the company, and those that are veterans that have been in this for a long time, and he wants to honor them. We saw that with him having Sting retire as a tag champ at Revolution. So I think what we're gonna see is we may see a Swerve and see Danielson beat Swerve. I mean, it's I think, and I'm gonna say this because Deshaun actually just mentioned it too. This is definitely main event All In. He goes, I think Danielson wins it All In because Danielson's supposed to retire at Wrestle Dream, and it's in his hometown. That's why I think he does win, because maybe he wrestles at Wrestle Dream and loses the title to either back to Swerve or some other young person, and they just, maybe to Will Ospreay. I don't know. Maybe they redo that one again, but maybe that's where he hangs up his boots as Wrestle Dream. And I can totally see him pulling out a surprise win. I mean, nobody thought he was going to be Paige. Everyone thought that Paige was going to win that match, and we're going to have another Swerve Paige. And yet here we are talking about All In with Danielson versus Swerve. So I do think it's a possibility that Tony Khan says, you've done a lot for us, Danielson, here. I want you to have this title. And it's your decision if you want to retain it at Wrestle Dream or pass it off to the next young guy.
Yeah, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see him win the title. I think he deserves it. Danielson, he's been a great performer and a great addition to professional wrestling overall. I mean, I think you could probably, or some people would put him in the top 10 wrestlers of all time, even, for what he's done, his contributions, his ability to win over a crowd. I mean, you can see what he did at WWE. A guy like him, he's, what did he win? He won the first, the triple threat at WrestleMania and beat like Batista and like Triple H, I think, to win.
It was Batista and Randy Orton.
Oh, okay. So again, so big. Now, I guess I know we did talk about, I think, the last week, actually the week before, and I think you probably brought it up as well. Do we see this being, if we're going to keep Hangman involved in a storyline, do we see him potentially getting involved in here, costing potential Swerve, the title, or are we actually going to see just a clean finish to let Danielson actually win clean the title, or do we see some interference which will just infuriate Swerve and continue on that rivalry going with Hangman Page?
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, you could go that one or two ways of having a wonky finish with certain people out there at the ring. Maybe you have a Hangman coming in, but then you have someone like a Jeff Jarrett coming in to prevent all this, and they brawl on the outside, and this leaves Swerve distracted enough for Danielson to get the win. Or maybe we do go the clean finish route and have Danielson and Swerve just have a great match, and just right when Swerve thinks he's about to win, he gets caught up by Danielson either with the running knee or into the yes lock and taps out, So I think you can go one or two ways, but I think the only logical finish to this match, in my opinion, even though I've loved Swerve as a champion, but I think he's had a good run, is to have Danielson win that title. I mean, one more. I think a lot of people want to see him win one more title before he retires. And so I think that's what they might be doing, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. And kind of your point, though, once they just say if Danielson does win, where do they go with that, right? Do they just throw it back on the Swerve, or are we ready to move on, right? It's going to be interesting. But I think I think it's still whatever's going to happen. I think it's still going to be a great match. My gut says I find that if Page isn't going to be on the card, then I think he's definitely going to get involved. We're definitely going to see him in some capacity there, right? Which we saw even at SummerSlam, right? Where you had Randy Orton and Kevin Owens kind of come out, right? You had a bunch of guys come in. So that'll be a good way to incorporate some of these bigger guys in. And, are we going to see, if that's the case, if we see Hangman come in and interfere in some way, do we see any of the BCC come down, to help out? Are we going to see like a Moxley jump out, for example? Like, who knows, right? This is an opportunity. It's the biggest show of the year for AEW. So I can only imagine they've got some good things planned. And a few surprises to come out. So that'll be interesting. But I've just, whenever they do a career versus title, the first thing I think of, and because every time they've done that in WWE, it's always the career, right? We had Macho Man lose the career versus Ultimate Warrior. Then you had Ric Flair lose to Shawn Michaels, right? So it's almost like that's where my brain goes. Like, oh god, here we go. He's going to just go out with a bang. Here's a nice finish. But we saw that a difference there when Sting retired. So like you said, Tony likes to acknowledge and kind of let some of these guys go out with a bang, who have really provided for the organization or just for the profession in general. So I guess we'll see. So again, it's another intriguing element, to get people and involved in the storyline and wanting to watch. So that's going to be really interesting. So, one of the other titles, I think what they've done a good job at, getting excited is MJF, with his American hero gimmick, with Ospreay. I love it. You've got a guy who's claiming to be the American hero, but he goes and insults whatever town in the U.S. he's in. Says like, "Well, my U.S. doesn't include, you know, X, whatever city he happens to be in, right?" So he's able to still, insult the crowd, which is great, which is classic MJF. Um, and so again, we know it's going to be, if Osprey wins, we're going to get back. It's going to be back to the international title. So, but again, hey, if they, at least if it's going to be a short-lived American championship, they're going to have that online, and you'll be able to buy that belt, right? Because AEW is not going to pass up, or guys who are making the belts, those companies will all say, "Hey, you know what? Get this limited time press of the American Championship." Because actually, it's a pretty cool belt. I like what they've done with it. But if Osprey wins, it's going to be going back to the international championship. So that's going to be interesting. And I think I do think for this one, we are going to see Osprey get the belt back. It only makes sense, to win it back, right? I know we've been talking about this match for weeks and weeks of what we think is going to happen, and things have kind of unfolded up until then, and how can you not have Osprey win? And I do. Well, I'll start there before I go on to my next point. Just want to get, how do you feel this is shaping up? How do you like this kind of temporary American hero gimmick that MJF is pulling off, and with the belt, and how do we feel this rivalry shaping up from your standpoint?
Um, I kind of like it. It's the American heel kind of persona. It's reminiscent of JBL when he had that character, when he switched from just Bradshaw to just John Bradshaw Layfield. It's kind of reminiscent of that, of this American made person, but who's still like a terror and like just a foul jerk. Like I think it's great. I think it works for MJF. I do like the fact that he rechristened it the AEW American Championship, because he says that's the only country that matters. I mean, it's great. It's great. It's a great heel call. And yeah, no, this match has been shaping up, and I'm saying if it's anything like that 1 hour match that they initially had on TV, I think we're gonna have a really really good second match between those two.
You just brought up, and what actually reminded me when you say JBL, what reminded me is that Kurt Angle came in, and he came in as an American gold medalist, an Olympian champion, and he still got booed, right? He was all Mr. America, and he still, right? And and he thought for sure that gimmick was going to go over, and Vince said no. Once we kind of change you into more of a like a bit of an ego boost guy with his three eyes. He said, "Don't worry, you'll get booed." And he's like, "There's not a chance. I'm an Olympic gold medalist." But that worked as well, right? So you really could take something that you think that everyone should be behind and still make it a heel turn. And MJF is great at doing that. But the one thing I do like, and I've mentioned him, this guy, for many times, and I've become a fan of his, and I'm starting to see, and I'm hoping that we're going to see more Kyle Fletcher. I'm a big fan, and I think he's a phenomenal wrestler. He's young. I think this guy's got a ton of potential. I think this guy's got a long career, another decade in him for sure. I think he's just scratched the surface about with his character and his abilities, and where he can go. And I really love how he's come to rescue, Osprey. Even though he's with the Don Callis family, he's getting over. You can see he's come out. He's getting the cheers. And I love how they're building it up to kind of lead up to All In and have him as like the best friend to Osprey. I guess he's fighting. They're fighting tomorrow night, I think, on Dynamite, if I remember. So I know they had a bit of a battle back and forth last week on Dynamite, and they also had I guess some words on Collision or Rampage also this past week. So they're kind of building that up, but. I don't know. Do we see this at all? A potential babyface turn, with Kyle Fletcher, even though he's with the, with the Don Callis family. I don't know. What do you think? And what are your thoughts on Kyle Fletcher overall?
I like it. I don't know. I don't know if this is just a swerve in itself. Maybe they plan on having this match, but then it's actually MJF that comes into the whole fold of the Don Callis family, and it could go either way. That's why I say we just gotta watch and see, because I never know. For most of the time, it's very predictable from what you can see. Other times, it's unpredictable. And honestly, I do see maybe a Kyle Fletcher turning babyface, and maybe facing MJF and kind of redeeming himself, or you just see it as a Kyle Fletcher and MJF put on a decent match, but then a chance of a finger poke of death, situation where MJF does some stupid and then Fletcher goes down and he pins him, and it was all a ruse. Maybe they say, hey, Kyle Fletcher's gonna have Ospreay in his corner and all that, and then finally comes back to it was all a ruse. So I mean, it could go either way with the Kyle Fletcher. His promo last week really does make you feel like, hey, maybe he is going to turn face, and, or again, maybe it's just all for show. So you never know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I know it could totally be that what you're saying, but they can't do heel turns, or they can't do, like, I don't know, backstabbing all the time, right? Or haha, look at me. I mean, we just saw that. They just did that with MJF when he destroyed Daniel Garcia, right? And when he was doing his babyface little run there at the beginning when he came back, and then obviously he went back to typical MJF with the turn. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. I hope so. I hope they keep him. I hope it's just not like a ruse, like you just said. I hope it's not that case. So, but I'm looking forward to that match. I know it's going to be a banger of a match as well. So, whatever it is, at least it's giving Kyle Fletcher some good TV time, and it's giving him some good opportunities, and give him some time on the mic, right? So, and what it means. What's Don Callis? I mean, the more if he becomes more of a fan favorite, are we going to see more of a Don Callis getting angry and pissed that where's he going with his with Kyle Fletcher, right? If he's getting too babyface. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how things go and how that ends up tomorrow night. Now, good. I wanted to touch on, I guess, going, again with. I kind of noticed there's the trios division again. I know I've mentioned it that it seems to be heating up a bit, and there's little glimpses of that. And I do find I think they're being pretty consistent with it, which we saw. We've had the interview come out with a patriarch with Christian, coming out he's been holding the titles the whole time, and he presents one of the titles to his prodigy, his son. Wayne, what's his first name again?
Nick Wayne.
Nick Wayne, as the youngest champion in AEW history, and as he goes to talk about, you think he's going to then give the other belt, over to a Kill Switch or Luchasaurus. Then we quickly see that he turns it and gives it to Mama Wayne because he's never actually given birth to a prodigy, Mama Wayne. So again, that just fuels, right? It just fuels what the fans are hoping, that eventually this is going to turn. This is going to be a turn, and they're going to get their Luchasaurus back. But soon as he just puts his hand on Christian, we have the House of Black come out. And, again, they kind of stand against them, and boom, the lights go out and the lights come back on, and there's Buddy Matthews. So we have him back. So, and then before long, we have the Bang Bang, the gang that's come out as well. So again, you've got three good teams. It'd be interesting to see. Are we going to see a possible triple threat match for the trios titles at All In? Do you think that's a possibility?
It's possible, and you can also maybe call it to where that's where Luchasaurus finally just walks away from the patriarchy and costs them the title. Maybe House of Black finally gets the titles back, which I'd like to see. I don't think they had a proper run with those. They had a good run, but I'd like to see them have them back one more time. Considering now that Buddy Matthews is back, and like I feel like after they lost to the Acclaim, they kind of lost that aura. And I'm like, I really think they need to show dominance again as a trios team if they win those trios titles back. So yeah, I would love to see this as a triple threat. Now, whether it's on the main card or not, or in the 0 hour, don't know. But maybe it could be 0 hour, and that's how you end 0 hour is Luchasaurus walk away and House of Black wins the titles. I mean, that's the only way I can see it.
Yeah, no, this would be a great time. And you know what? When I saw House of Black come out, I'm like, you know what? I'd like to see. I think Killswitch could fit into the House of Black. Like, I love his outfit. He's got the black. He's already got the mask. He's already kind of like devilish or like that kind of darkness. I think he'd be kind of a cool. I know you can have him move him over now. You've got 4 guys in the trios, so I get that. But I just think if they were going to do a 4th member, I know they've got Julia Hart, right? But I know she's injured. I know she's really the 4th member and having the female presence. But I don't know. I could. Could you see Killswitch in a team like House of Black, or would that not fit?
I don't know. I see him more as like a solo act. I think he could do all right as a solo. I don't think he needs the group and anything like that. Like I said, I think him working as a solo act is probably what he needs. A little bit of a break from group work, because I feel like just break work, he's just like in group environment, like he's just there. He's just the big strong guy in the group. But maybe he can get that whole what Wardlow should have had, that big man push, and at least have time to shine in the sun. I mean, the people are still behind him. I mean, they still chant Luchasaurus, especially after that segment on Collision with, them and House of Black and the Bang Bang Gang. So, I mean, I would really like to see Luchasaurus go solo again, and maybe after this whole run of the corporate elite, and maybe have Jack Perry and Luchasaurus team up again. Maybe not necessarily be Jungle Express, but at least team up again. But we'll have to see.
I just think if Luchasaurus or Killswitch goes on his own, I still feel he needs a handler, even just a mouthpiece. Even if he's still going to be like a singles wrestler, I still think a manager would be great for him. Just like we see another big man, and we see. I think when big men go on their own in AEW, they don't seem to do very well. Wardlow, for example. Where did he go? Right, that kind of went south. They keep on trying to bring in, the Murder Hawk. And then you see him sometimes with Jake the Snake Roberts. I just think they're not very good. They don't run with the big guys very often. Not enough. I wish they would, because I like big guys, especially if they dominate and then they destroy. So I just feel he needs somebody. That's why I've always liked him with Christian. But again, if they're going to do this angle where it's the frustration, and you're going to see Luchasaurus or Killswitch, turn babyface, I don't know. I just still think he needs somebody, right? Speaking of big man, we do see what's his name? I mean, I call him the Murder Hawk, but it's what's his name? Oh my god, I can't remember.
Lance Archer.
Lance Archer. So what is the deal with Lance Archer? Is he just always in like New Japan all the time? Is that why he comes back every so often? Because I just feel if he's just sitting on the sidelines, I feel it's a total waste. Because I think he's a great talent and a lot of people like him. I mean, the crowd kind of goes nuts. He's dominant. He knows how to wrestle. He takes these freaking. He had a great match against Will Ospreay, and he proves he can go with the fast guys. He did a crazy move off the top rope with Ospreay. So he has that ability. So, I mean, again, we kind of touched on Lance Archer in the last couple of weeks, kind of saying, hey, is he getting a push? Are we seeing this? Or is this one of Tony's flavor of the month situations where he brings a guy in for, 3-4 weeks in a row, good matches, and then, okay, see you later, and go and sit down in catering again, or they go off to New Japan or Mexico or wherever he is. But like, do I mean, has he been on the sidelines, or is he doing a lot of work in Japan? other than AEW? Do you know what the Lance Archer's doing?
I know he had a couple of matches in Japan. I'm actually looking that up right now to see if there was anything else that he was doing, and I am seeing that he was doing a couple of matches in Japan.
Hmm.
But for the most part, yeah, I think he's now back doing more stuff with AEW, which is good. I think he does a lot of good stuff with AEW. Honestly, I like to see him in more predominant matches in AEW. Although, I think the nice thing about AEW is allowing other people to go to other companies and especially overseas to kind of do that stuff. But it's always great to see Lance Archer on AEW television. And yeah, I think his match with Will was a really good match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, I mean, I'd like to see more of Lance Archer doing what he does best and just be a beast.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and I think you need a couple of beasts. I'll take Lance Archer over Wardlow any day. If you're going to say pick a big man to push, I would even pick Luchasaurus over as a second big man. I would actually like to see a big man tag team that just pummels everybody. I mean, I still think even a Lance Archer and Luchasaurus team would be great because they're both agile, man, both big men, both can move, both can work with the little guys. And they've proven themselves. I would actually think that'd be a great tag team, and then have Jake the Snake Roberts still manage both of them. I think I would love to see something like that, right? They could definitely be a real dominant tag team and actually have the belts. You've got the voice of Jake the Snake, which I believe he's still under contract, where he did sign an extension with AEW. So I think Jake is still around. And Lance Archer, he can actually talk on the mic as well. I really hope they utilize him. I think, and you can hear from the pop of the crowd. So I definitely think that he's got some worthiness to him, and I think he could be a good champion, whether as a tag champion or if you put on the TNT title on him. Did he actually hold the TNT title? Do you know? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he might have held the 6-man tag, but that's about it. I think that's the only thing he's held.
The 6-man tag?
I don't know. I can't remember for the life of me what other titles he's held. But I mean, he's held a lot of New Japan titles. So, but I don't know if he's ever held any AEW titles.
Well, I guess we'll see. I hope they do something. That's all I think of. I think it'll be a real waste if they don't keep on using Lance Archer. And AEW and Tony's great for getting people excited on a guy, and then they kind of disappear. For a while. So hopefully that's not the case. But I think there's a lot more of the card to be developed for All In. And again, when you talk about the 0 hour, like they'll throw like 3 matches on the 0 hour for sure. Usually the kind of the 0 hour is kind of a shame because there's a lot of usually some really good wrestling that happens on the 0 hour. I get it has a purpose. It's to entice, to buy in, to keep on going. Hey, this action's so good, man. Just imagine what you're going to see on the main card. So I get it. I get it's done for that purpose and promotion. And it's usually a full arena, so it's not like they're wrestling for nobody. And so I'm sure there's going to be a good 3 matches they need for that. There was I did see this past week, and I'm interested to see what is going to be the development in it. I know that I always thought, kind of based on what's happened the last month or so in AEW, I thought, say, All In would be leading up to a tag match, a tag championship match, which I thought it was looking towards, the Acclaimed, versus the Young Bucks. I thought that was kind of what we've seen, with Blood and Guts and everything, that would be leading up to a tag championship match at All In. But this past week, we saw kind of the face-to-face, with the Acclaimed getting in the face of FTR, which I don't know, which is kind of interesting because now they're kind of both like faces, right? They're going at each other as opposed to, I think when they were fighting, it's either, FTR were the heels, and then the Acclaimed were the heels, right? So they're both a bit to babyface. So I don't know. Is this leading up to anything? Is there a possibility? Are we actually going to see the Young Bucks actually defend their titles at All In? And could we possibly see a triple threat match? as well.
Possibly. I mean, that little moment between FTR and the Acclaimed. I mean, we may be getting heel Acclaimed again, just because of how their demeanor has changed, their attitude has changed, especially after Blood and Guts. I think you may see a change in the guard, or you get a heel FTR. But I mean, you could go either way with that. And I believe if they want to, I think maybe they do make FTR heel just for the hell of it, even though both of them are faces. I don't think FTR gets involved in the tag match between, like, put in. I think they get involved somehow, but I don't think they get put in the mix of the tag match for the titles between the Elite and the Acclaimed. I think the Elite wins that cheating, Acclaim loses it, FTR tries to come talk to them, and they just start brawling. I think that's what leads to this little feud between the two.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I guess we're going to see more developments on it, this week. And just again, what do we think of? A lot of this is happening. Some of these things are happening, I guess, in that little arena that I mentioned to you before we came online here. So I guess this was, the original. I guess this looks like it was the home of Ring of Honor, and I guess when they've been doing some of these the collisions and Rampage in this, I guess, a smaller arena, which actually, it does fit, and it looks like probably if they're been doing the shows where, if it's going to be a night where they're doing Collision and Rampage and possibly an ROH taping as well, it's great. Like, I love the setup, looks great. It seems to be a fit, and who knows? I can't tell how many people are in the arena. I got to assume it's got to be about 500 people. But again, I know these shows are done for TV taping. It's a TV program first and foremost. So if it's a big studio with a good amount of crowd, it's still getting a good pop. You're still getting a good sound from it. But maybe it's more cost effective, right? And I know we've talked about, and that's where we go. And I did kind of hear like something like that was going to be happening again. If we're kind of looking at it and doing a comparison to, if you think about it, Monday Night Raw started in that theater, in Manhattan, which was a fairly small space. ECW had that kind of a fairly intimate kind of space as well. So, and are they going to that more little intimate space? Kind of like if you're gonna, like, with Impact or TNA has always thrived in that type of smaller space. So, and even NXT, right? That you've got a stable place. They tape at the same show every single week at the same spot. So I wonder, is that where they're going, you think, with this? Because I think it's been a few weeks now that it's been held in that little arena, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I believe they may go forward with that, and it actually looks great. The lighting in there makes it seem like it's a full house, but you never know because you can't see in there. It's almost like how they did like the tapings for TNA. TNA that's been around for 20 plus years that a lot of people thought that was going to go away and never did. So I think what they're doing is really smart on doing that and not doing like sold out shows like they would do like a Dynamite. Dynamite can be their show where they go and do all the touring and do different cities with a Dynamite and their pay-per-views. Whereas Collision, like, you can do Collision at one place and it's okay. And I think you can do that. Same with Rampage. Maybe you do Rampage at one place. But I do enjoy that they changed that venue, and maybe they do go forward with it. I mean, maybe that's how they want to do it from now on.
Yeah, they're still having. This past week when I watched some of the highlights from Rampage and Collision, they still had all the big names showing up. Right, they're still having that. So, again, it's WWE has, I think, found a lot of success doing with NXT, and it's kind of bad. It's like there's no shame in that small kind of spaces, right? I think wrestling has thrived. When it's if you're looking at it from a television production standpoint. We saw it. WCW, did it in Orlando, right, in the Disney Studios. How they had that little arena there with the rotating ring. They had that little home, right? You can keep it stable and just keep on bringing in the people, right, and just have the wrestling stays put, and the fans just kind of rotated in and out. So I know WCW had done that, going back to the NWA days with the little TV studio. I mean, I always thought as a kid it looked ridiculous, but you know, but it worked, right? It's all part of the studio, and you can also see it as a terms of it's also promoting. It's a way to promote the other big shows that actually tour, right? So if you've got one and it works, keep it stable. But like your point, I think at least if they're going to do it in a smaller space, um, the way they stage and the ramp and everything looks great. So I'm interested in seeing if that is the case. But it's a good sound, right? I think one of the main things you got to think of is how's the acoustics, and even if you have 500 people in a space, it still sounds good, and which it does. I think it's good, and as long as you've got a good fan base who are vocal in it, then it'll work. So yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I'm always a big one for, I brought up. I love the way setups look. I'm always a big one for how the ring is, the ramp, the lighting, the sound. I love all that, right? So, as long as it looks good to me and it doesn't look like an empty little, like, like an arena or a gymnasium, then I'm fine with it. But anyway, it looks good for TV, right? So, anyways, just wanted to bring that up. But I know just there's been a couple of rumors, I guess, that have been kind of circulating, and just wanted to get your opinion on those. I've heard two, and the one that this week has been really going around, and who knows if it has any merit or not, is potentially the Lucha Brothers not re-signing with AEW when their contract's up, and they say all signs are pointing to join WWE, which kind of heartbreaking. I really like them, and I think they feel AEW. Um, you know, I guess if any time they would be able to fit in WWE, and WWE has kind of opened up to more Spanish or Mexican wrestlers, and with more of the kind of factions, with the influx of that style, the lucha style. So, would they fit right in? Would they, as long as they don't get to NXT, like, don't put them in NXT, please. They don't deserve, like, they should be on the main roster right away if that's going to be the case. I don't know. How do you feel it? I mean, did you hear those rumors, and what do you feel? Do you feel it would be a good move for them, and would they get the same exposure, or better than what they've had in AEW?
It all depends on what their contracts are going to be in WWE. Because right now, the way that they're using AEW, I mean, they held the tag titles for a while, and then they kind of fell out. Then they had Death Triangle with Pac, and that went great with the trios. But all in all, I don't see them getting a lot of push other than that, botched title run of Rey Fenix winning the international title. But other than that, I don't know. I think they've ran their course in AEW. I think they did what they've had to done in AEW. I think that, where their careers are going, I think, obviously I'm not going to compare apples to oranges, but WWE is like almost like that's where you want to go. AEW is somewhere you want to be to wrestle and, kind of hone your craft and entertain the crowd and all that stuff. And it's fun. It's a fun wrestling company. But with WWE, that's your bread and butter. That's where a lot of people want to go. But then there's others in WWE. They're like, well, I had my time here. I won't go somewhere else. I mean, that's just the business of wrestling. Contracts are going to run out. So I think what we're looking at is the Lucha Brothers going over WWE, maybe not a long-time contract, depending on what TKO wants to pay them. I guarantee you Paul/Triple H is watching them saying, I like these guys, bet TKO's going, dude, these guys are great. We can get them on TV. We get, a certain audience, demographic. We can get new eyes on this product, so no matter what people do, I'm happy with their careers going other places and just continuing. So if this is the end of the Lucha Brothers, I say thank you for a lot of fun matches you had for us. And, best of luck to you guys in WWE. And hopefully you guys get some banger matches over there.
Yeah. Do you know when the contract's up?
I have no idea. I honestly do not know. I haven't read. I think they said Penta's is up the end of this month.
Really?
I want to say it's at the end of the month or maybe the end of the week. I'm not sure. They just said it was soon, and that they're not re-signing.
And did you hear also, again, it's the internet and there's rumors and everyone loves spreading rumors in professional wrestling just to get clicks, clickbait. Also, too, I heard a rumor, and I don't know if you've heard this, that they weren't sure if Daniel Garcia was going to resign. And that's one of the reasons why they kind of wrote him off and getting destroyed by MJF, so they can, in case he didn't resign, that they've have him written off TV. Did you hear anything like that?
I've heard rumors like that. I mean, there's another rumor going around, and actually, Deshaun mentioned it earlier about things going on backstage that may not be true, may not be a work. Like this whole situation with Britt Baker, MJF and MJF's fiance Alicia Tot or whatever how you say her name. But I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because you never know what the truth is. You never know if it's a work, a shoot, it's a real. You never know. So I mean, it's the same thing with contracts. You don't know. I mean, also you look at someone like a Becky Lynch. She just had her biography and she did an Instagram post almost saying a retirement post, as most people are saying that she's retiring, which I don't think she is. I think she's just taking a break, just to be with her daughter and, spend a little mama time with her. Obviously Seth is still going to be around, make some of that bread money, but even her, she'll make some money off residuals and, even her book sales, because of her new book. So, I mean, I'm sure she'll get some sales on that. I think she just wants a little bit of a break, to give her body a break. And, again, with all these rumors and, behind the scenes, gossip that you get in professional wrestling, I think everybody just needs to take it with a grain of salt and not really take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's your point there with Becky Lynch. It would make sense. I mean, usually when people come out with books, they'll do a book tour. So even if she wanted to take a break from wrestling, I mean, I've been like, oh, that must be, she maybe wants to be her daughter. But again, if she's got a book and promoting, that's is when you go on the road and you do morning shows and stuff like that. You do book signings and stores, right? So maybe she could be doing that as well as part of her book promotion, which does take time, right? So, I mean, that'll be interesting. But you're totally right. You got to take everything with a grain of salt with these rumors and all this the backstage, and people love rumors more than any time in wrestling. They love it right now, and it's easy to spread, right? And everyone wants clickbait. So again, the other rumor that we had kind of kicking around, and we'll see what happens at All In, is I've heard a few times now that Toni Storm about giving up her character, which are we starting to already see that? Looks like she's kind of changed her outfit. She's gone to an all white, a little bit different, and it looks like she's been more on her own, if I'm not mistaken. Not necessarily having the butler of
Luther,
with her, which I like Luther. I like Luther with her. So I hope they don't lose Luther on that. But is it time? What do you think? Are we tired of the gimmick, or is this too soon? Or are we just going to see a variation of the same character?
I think you're going to see, I mean, you may see an evolution of the character. I mean, right now you've got Toni Storm, the golden girl of timeless of 50s and 60s movies. Maybe they kind of progress it to where she's like an 80s kind of like movie kind of person with the puff hair and the attitude and the chains and everything like that. Maybe not come full circle to her old character of Toni Storm, but maybe like when she was timeless Toni Storm, maybe again this is part of the evolution of the character, a new role, and this is 80s punk Toni Storm, and she's more aggressive, especially if she loses her title. She's going to be more aggressive, more punk. She's not going to have anything. She's going to be more angst and all that stuff. So I don't think you'd actually get rid of the whole timeless Toni Storm character, but I'd love to see an evolution of like the decades of movies. Right now she's in her timeless 50s and 60s starlet role kind of, persona. And then, we don't even go to 70s. We go to the 80s. We jump to the 80s of like the punk rock, and she comes out to like punk rock music and like the static TV screen like that, the VHS and all that. And she's like punk and everything. I would love that. So, I mean, again, this is just rumors, so, I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
But do you think, because I think what you're saying there, I kind of feel that she's already done that. already kind of did the 80s character with a song with Barracuda. That was an 80s track. And then she was with like the Misfits or whatever that group, what it was, Soraya, right?
Outcasts.
The Outcasts.
I don't
With
think
that,
that was punk though. I honestly don't think that was punk. That was just more of like just outcast people, like just more so just like goth, not goth, but like outcasts, like people that don't belong.
yeah.
Whereas a punk is like think 16 Candles kind of punk, or like Return of the Living Dead.
Hmm. It'll be interesting. It'd be kind of a shame the way her character is developing to have her lose the title, unless you're going to again move it away from her and then have her with a new look, new attitude, new version of a character. She starts feuding with Sasha, or Mercedes Monet, right? So kind of know we've always talked about that. Are we going to start seeing that where she goes after that title? Because I don't think she's held the women's TBS championship, has she?
No, she has not. She's only held the women's world title
Hmm.
twice. So
So see, like, I mean, it's just shaping up that we're going to maybe see only potentially two women's matches at All In, just the two for the title. I know we kind of talked about even in the past, like, hey, there's a lot of women active women on the roster. Do we see like I don't know, uh, a battle royal, or do we see something where there's going to be another women's, or are we going to see at least another women's match on the 0 hour? I mean, you could really there's a lot there that you could even put together a match, right? There's so many women as opposed to just having 4 women on the whole card, right? When you've got like 20 women backstage that you could utilize for something. So, and again, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing what I've always hoped they're going to be doing, and doesn't look like they're going to turn this into a tag tournament to crown any new women's tag champions, which I thought would be perfect. And I think it's the right time. You get so many women, but I guess they're not going to do that. But what does this mean for? I keep on seeing this with. I know you kind of brought up there with about Britt Baker and those rumors and her getting suspended. I mean, is that true? I mean, are they really? I thought, aren't they supposed to be fighting at All In? Isn't she
they
supposed to
are,
be?
but the rumor is that she's suspended for 2 weeks, which is plenty of time to come back for All In. She's still scheduled for All In. But the fact that the rumor was she went off on Ospreay and MJF, the match itself, and just went off, and that his fiance is involved. And again, MJF's fiance Alicia is very involved in professional wrestling. She's well known throughout it as an interviewer.
Where's she from?
She's like a influencer, like who does like pro wrestling kind of stuff, like pro wrestling content, like interview pro wrestlers, go to wrestling events, all this stuff, and almost like a podcaster of professional wrestling, So yeah, I kind of also have to take this with a grain of salt. Maybe it's just to further the story. I don't know. Maybe we'll find that out. Tomorrow night on Dynamite, maybe they make an announcement. So again, we just gotta wait and see, and just see how the process goes.
What other, from your standpoint, what other women's match makes sense? With some of the storylines going on, who would you see? It's like, okay, you know what? Adding that, because it would be obviously a non-title match, so it would have to be something that made sense. I mean, we keep on seeing, some Willow and Statlander, but again, I know Willow has a title, right? So she's got
The CMLL.
Yeah. So, I mean, do we see something like that at All In? I mean, if you think
maybe depending on how the match, I think it's a Texas Bull Rope match between Deanna and Thunder.
Yeah.
Depending on the outcome of that, I mean, right now I think Deanna is up 2-1. So I mean, if Thunder wins that one, they're 2-2. So you might see a rubber match between the two in the 0 hour. I mean, that's the only women's match I can think of. That's the only one that makes sense right now, story wise, of what's going on as a feud. So outside of Chris and Willow for the CMLL women's title, that's the only one that makes sense to me. So you might get 3 women's matches throughout the whole night. Maybe you get 2 on the 0 hour between Willow and Chris, and then you get Thunder and Deanna, and then the main card you get Mariah and Tony. So I mean, a possibility of 3.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like how it's shaping up. I mean, it just seems like there's so many wrestlers that are so far aren't on the bill, and I feel like they should be. With like 9 days left, I think they really should be promoting whatever other matches they're going to be having. I think that should become evident, especially by this week, right? Who are we going to see? Jericho, is he going to be on the card? Are we seeing Hangman? Right? Is Orange Cassidy? Is he involved? I mean, is he going to be? Is he already on the card? Um, Again, are you just going to have a battle royal and throw 20 guys in who aren't, and just kind of throw in, and whoever wins that wins another championship, match, right? So um, it'll be interesting. So who do
Mhm.
we have? So we do have Darby, right? So we've got Darby Allen
And Jack. Yep.
and Jack, right? So who's so do we have do we already have the international title or
Well, it would be the All American.
the
I
All
mean, but
American?
you're thinking about the Continental title.
The Continental. So what are we seeing for that?
That I don't know. I mean,
Right?
unless they do like a last minute thing where they throw someone against Okada, who to be, don't know. So
Yeah.
it could be a last minute thing.
So it's got to
So
be something. I mean, like I said, this week. I mean, then you've got like Briscoe. You've got a ton of guys that aren't in matches yet, but you would figure that probably is Moxley going to show up? Are we expecting him back? I mean, this is one of the biggest show of the season, right? The year. So it's just kind of interesting. I just don't understand why they haven't really solidified more of the matches going on for this card, right? So I'm kind of going through because there's, I mean, they're always pretty good about throwing on like especially an event like this, including 0 hour, that we should be getting like 10 matches overall. I mean, that's what
yeah,
AEW does, right? Especially again 0 hour, which usually has two or three. And then I can see this going being a 4 hour show, to
could
be
be.
honest.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
totally agree with you on that one. Yep.
So, and some feel it gets a bit lengthy, especially, well, I guess if this is going to be, this will be on earlier for us, right? Because again, if this is going to be in London and they're 5 hours ahead of us or of me, I'm on the East Coast and Eastern Standard Time. So, which would be at least 6 hours for you. um, you know, so at least this will be an early one. So you won't have to worry about, getting to bed at midnight, like other
Pay per views.
paper that they had. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, of course, I'm going to watch. So again, tomorrow, I'm really looking forward to seeing who else they're going to have. Like I said, it's got to solidify by tomorrow, and I don't know what other big surprises they're going to come up with to do that. But you know, I guess we'll find out tomorrow. I think we'll shed some light on a lot of things. But I just wanted to ask you what for before we wrap up with the hour here. Um, what do you have going on this week? I
I
know.
mean, we've got Dynamite, obviously, and everything like that. Obviously, everybody can join us for our Dynamite live reactions on Wednesdays. But Thursday, we'll be back to talking Elite. And actually, I believe it's the interview that we were planning to do a few weeks ago, till he kind of canceled. Barry Horowitz,
Mm,
legend in professional wrestling. He should be on Thursday. Connor had gotten with me today and said, "Hey, um, you know, uh, we scheduled it. Sounds like it's still on for Thursday, so nothing's changed. So we're still on for 7 o'clock for Barry Horowitz. So if you guys want to come on, ask him questions. He's a legend in the professional wrestling world. He's been around forever. I mean, he was around during the territory days. So make sure you guys can join in for that. And then that's about it. I know my work schedule changes next week. So guys, bear with me because I may have to alter the Talking Elite schedule. I got to talk to Connor about that because I will be going to back half nights. So yeah, so I will be working Wednesday through Saturday nights. So
mm,
we'll see how that goes. But that's the schedule for the week for AEZ.
nice. I was just curious, when from your standpoint, like if you were going to speak to or ask questions of Barry Horowitz, what are some things that you're most interested in asking him about based on
Territory days. I
Yeah.
just the territory days of all the guys he used to wrestle with. You know, the guys like the Bruno San Martinos and the Harley Races and the, you know, Terry Hogan's. And, you know, I just want to ask him questions, the old Ric Flair stuff, the Von Erichs. You know, I just want to ask him questions
He
about
was
when
back
the
then?
old crew. Oh,
Really?
yeah, he was back then. Yeah. During the 80s. Yeah. Barry Horowitz. Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, yeah. Here, let me pull up his info because I could have sworn like he was old school, man. He grew up in those territory days. He knew all those guys.
I always just thought him as a jobber or a developmental talent. I know we're not supposed to call them jobbers anymore, especially
Yeah,
since
I mean he did work for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, Jim Crockett's NWA Mid Atlantic. He wrestled guys like Angelo Mosco, Kendall Windham, Percy Pringle, who a lot of people don't know went on to be Paul Bearer for The Undertaker. He was a manager of Barry Horowitz. Sir Oliver Humperdinck, if people remember
yeah,
him. He
yeah.
was part of WWF back in the day for about 3 years. So yeah, no, he's. I mean, he grew up in those kind of the. Uh, oh my god, I just lost the word I was thinking. He grew up in the territories and then went to WWF. So I mean, that's his career.
Yeah, you know, I'm always curious because these guys, how do you become like a serial development talent? You know what I mean? Like the Iron Mike Sharps, the Barry O's, you know, the
Yeah,
guys that just made a career, you know, like the Steve Lombardis. Um, and I know and always like interesting. And the older I got, the more interested I got into that in the world of being a quote unquote jobber.
mm-hmm.
Where, you know, did it become facts like, hey, you know what? I don't care if I do this role, I get to wrestle every week,
Mm-hmm.
and is making money and just performing and being on the card, is that more important than being popular or winning? You know, and I know it's choreographed and it's you're still doing a job and you're just getting paid to do what you're supposed to do, right? And I know some of these matches they get the wins, you know, especially if they did like that local house shows. You know, with they would always start with jobber versus jobber, right? So it's almost like a all right, give him this guy the win, he gets the win, right? And Iron Mike Sharp was always a bit of a favorite here, out of, you know, in Southern Ontario, you know, coming out of a self-proclaimed Canada's greatest athlete coming out of Hamilton, Ontario. So he did a lot of wrestling in Ontario as well for WWF back then. You know, so he would come away with a win once in a while when he was against another jobber babyface. So always interesting to hear their perspective of they thought, hell no, you know what? I enjoyed what I did. I made more money doing what I was doing. I wrestled way more than I would have. So it'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah,
You know, because again, everyone's got a role, and if you ask them, "Hey, man, I wrestled how many, like 4 times a week? I wrestled all the time. Yeah, I lost, but I got paid, right?
yeah,
So,
I got
right,
money.
yeah, so it'll be interesting. So, anyways, that'd be a good show, and I'm sure that'd be really interesting, and I'm sure you're gonna ask a lot of good questions, of course, with your insight and your knowledge. So that'll be a good one. So I hope the show goes well for you. But yeah, no, it's great. You know, we're we've come to over the hour, so you know, I think. You know, we'll call it a day, and appreciate you know we've had some great wrestling talk as we always do, Adam. And tomorrow I think we'll become more enlightened, like I said, of what's going to happen in All Out. I think we're getting too close not to know what the card looks like. So I think
Yeah,
this weekend between Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, I think we're really going to start seeing that come together for All In. So that'll be
yes,
looking forward to that. And you know, again, you've got your a good show that coming on this week, so that's exciting. So we'll have to hear about it next week. And like always, we always appreciate everyone who's tuned in, watching it live, watching on repeat, giving us a thumbs up, and liking us and following us on YouTube. We always appreciate it. So thanks for tuning in, and please tell your friends and family, and we always appreciate it. And with that, we'll call it a week, and we'll see you all back next Tuesday. Thanks very much, and we'll do it again. Have a great week.